Welcome to Better Sex, where you get the information and inspiration to create and enjoy your best possible sex life. Join your host, sex therapist Jessa Zimmerman, as she brings you expert guests, helpful tips, knowledge, and strategies to improve your intimate relationships. And now, your host, Jessa Zimmerman.
Hey, welcome back. It's the Better Sex Podcast. This is Jessa, and I'm here with a brand new episode that I hope you're going to find interesting. I'm always looking for new guests, new topics, a new take on an old idea, some new thing that might be interesting to you, intriguing, maybe even inspiring. Because I really, really do want to bring you guys information that is helpful, that's applicable, that at least makes you think if it doesn't make you behave differently. Today's episode is a conversation with Lauren White. And she's in Australia, and she works with women around libido. And I love how she thinks about libido, because it's not about lust. It's not about feeling an intense desire for sex. It's about nurturing our capacity to give and receive pleasure. It's about desire, but it's also just about sensuality. It's about being in touch with ourselves. It's about being present. It's about being balanced in our energies, in our activities. It's about freedom. And from that kind of full libido cup comes an openness and a desire for sex, an ability to show up and engage in a way that's really fulfilling for us. So we're talking about libido, not so much about how to want more sex, and have more sex. It's about how do we nurture our full selves in such a way that that is a natural outcome, one of the outcomes, not the only way that we would move through the world and express ourselves. So I hope you find the conversation interesting, intriguing, and maybe even actionable. Enjoy. The Better Sex Podcast is brought to you by the Sex Without Stress online course. It's a course for couples to escape the cycle of disappointment, avoidance, and pressure in your sex life. So if you're in a pretty good relationship, there's a lot of love and goodwill, but sex is your struggle, this could be for you. You work in the privacy of your own home and at your own pace to create a sex life you can both look forward to. If you want to learn more, go to sexwithoutstress.com/program. So Lauren, thank you so much for being with me on the show.
Thanks, Jessa. It's great to be here. I'm really excited.
Yeah. So we're talking about libido, right?
Mm.
And I wondered, to start off, how do you even define that? What are we talking about?
Yeah, what are we talking about? Libido is a beautiful word because it's personal and it almost references everything. And something that I share with a lot of people is the best definition of libido I've ever come across is from Alisa Vitti, who wrote Woman Code, all about how to help your hormones and your menstrual cycle and to be more in tune with it. And her definition is your ability to give and receive pleasure, enjoyment, and acknowledgement. And that's what your libido is. Okay. And I love that definition because first of all, it's non-sexual, it's non-erotic, but it can reference the sexual and the erotic. So I consider so many things that other people would perceive to be non-sexual as actually fueling and feeding and nourishing and influencing my libido. So whenever I plant my feet in nature, I'm harnessing my libido, I'm nurturing it, I'm accessing it. Whenever I just take my time being present and brush my children's hair, I'm nurturing my libido. It's about, for me, it's about being able to drop into that softness and be powerful as well with other things that we tend to really value in this life, like executing and achieving goals and
right.
and being strong and powerful and to have force and things, all of them are beautiful qualities. I just think if we can enjoy all of them, then we're really accessing our libido, because then when it comes time for something sexual to happen, then we know how to drop into that place, because we've been doing little bits of it and little pieces of it by day.
I really like that definition too, because it isn't just about like lust, like what we think of as sex drive or a desire for sex right now. It's a much more holistic view of our an ability to give and receive, no matter what we're deciding to do in any one moment. So
I love it. I love it. We tend to, I have so many women say, I want to want it. I want to want it.
Yes.
And it's all this, we value this wanting, and like you said, lust, great word, lust and desire and all of this really intense stuff, passionate. And all of that has its place and it's beautiful when it happens. I just find that when we spend our life yearning for all the intense stuff and wanting it really regularly and amongst conditions that aren't really favorable to it happening, it's it gets us caught in a loop and it makes us more frustrated. So I just want everyone to know that there's so much power in the small, and it's taken me so long to value that, because I'm a high achiever that likes intense stuff and wants the big things and the big powerful emotions, but without valuing the small stuff, we're not going to feel those big things. That's
yeah. So what do you think holds women back in their libido?
What holds us back? Do we have a whole hour?
Well, we have 45 minutes, but I have more than that. Just that question. So, okay, what's the biggest thing that holds us back? Is it just is it the failure to appreciate these small softnesses? Is it just misunderstanding what we should be chasing?
Yeah, I think, yes, I think it's that. I think it's that amongst this sense of obligation and duty to spread ourselves very thin, and that there's not a lot of space for the erotic or the sexual amongst all of that. So we are people with estrogen-based bodies. We tend to be very good at juggling and multitasking and making sure all different sorts of aspects of life are taken care of. And that can leave libido in the lurch, because I feel like at some point when we got mixed up with this message of, I can do anything, and we've interpreted that as I can do everything.
And in fact, I should do everything.
Maybe that's, it's not I can, but I should do everything.
Yeah.
I've been having these conversations recently with my husband about some of the things that we need to do as a couple to minimize how I'm allowing myself to get caught up in some of that as a parent and a business owner and a homeowner and everything else, all the other roles that we fulfill with family and friends and social obligations. So at some point I think we need to sit down and make some serious choices about where our energy is going, where our libido is going. If it's fruitful for us, please keep doing it. If it really lights your fire, keep doing it. If it has a cost, though, if it's costing you something dear, something that you actually need to invest in, like your personal relationship, or, it might be you're allowing yourself to fall into some of your hobbies and work so deeply that you're not dating anymore, or you've let that go because it's easier to be invested in your hobbies or your work life. I just think we are just trying to do way too much and getting caught up in looking too much at what other people are doing as well.
Right.
And that's sapping our libido. So eyes on your own lane and do what works. Do what works for you, and you might, this is the hard news I have to share with women sometimes. It's you actually have to cut some of that back. You cannot, this is not sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah, I was interviewing somebody, and I can't remember who it was, but just in the last week or two, talking about how Well, in her opinion, women especially are really good at saying no to themselves. Not so much no to anything else, but this sort of taking on too much, and something has to give. We can't do it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, something has to give. It's interesting, isn't it, how much we can deny ourselves but not deny anyone else.
Yeah.
And just make sure other people are comfortable, make sure they're happy, make sure, that we're people pleasing, that they still like us, that they still see us a certain way. And then on the inside, part of you is withering. Part of you is just, sinking down and not being nurtured and not being acknowledged. And
so besides somebody being busy and recognizing maybe some of this description, how do people recognize that their libido is withered? How is it showing up for people? What might they recognize? Sorry.
Yeah. How is it showing up? It usually shows up. What I've found in working with women all this time is it usually shows up when their partner turns to them and says, why isn't this happening? Okay, fair enough. We had some valid reasons for a while. Might have been in the face of grief or loss or pregnancy, all of the different things that can really curb our libido. But they're often saying, look, how much longer is this going to go on for? What's really going on? So that's often, in my experience, the kind of wake up or stirring that women get. Sometimes it's something very personal. They see something they see something within a program or a film, or they hear about something within their friend's life, and they just realize, oh my gosh, I haven't got that, or I haven't connected with that in a long time, or that feels bloody uncomfortable, and I don't feel what happened to that confident, maybe confident woman 10 years ago. So we get these gentle wake up calls. And in my experience, if someone's in a relationship, it's more often that the partner's igniting this conversation and she goes, yes, I realize that, and it can be a bit of a slow burn. It's not necessarily an instant thing, because we can get defensive when,
right.
This is so personal.
Yeah.
This is so personal. So this is the very short version of it. But it can be like, oh, yes, that thing is missing and I don't feel comfortable. And why don't I feel comfortable? I love my partner and I've created this life for us, but something is missing.
Yeah. And I know that in my own, in my practice, I'm a sex therapist and I work mostly with couples, and a lot of people in that place assume it's just gone.
Yeah.
That this is a phase of life. It's the kind of thing that, we didn't expect it to die so young, but it did. And, so they don't necessarily come in with an idea that there's something to be done about this, or this is something they can access again. It's like something that's happened to them. Sometimes it's with menopause, but sometimes it's before that.
Yeah.
And they think it's just gone, right?
Yeah. 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 And the words, I'm wondering if you've heard them as well, but the words, I wouldn't care if I never had sex again.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, I actually, when I hear that, I totally understand where that person is coming from. I empathize. I understand it on every level, but it's almost like this like, I don't know, my body just goes, no, it doesn't have to stay this way. It doesn't have to stay this way. It's, you feel so far away from your libido that you think that this is permanent and that you're okay with that. But it's interesting, once we start awakening, reaccessing sensuality. It's not none of this is just about sex. If someone out there doesn't know what a sex therapist does, so much of our work is about what lies around sex and what influences it on a day-to-day basis. And just like the nature reference I made before, it's just like basic sensuality is often missing as well. I find it, it's not just like all of sex is just shelved, but they're completely connected to their body and accessing sensuality and nurturing things that they're interested in. It usually falls along with some other things in life that are joyous or playful or purposeless, like they don't have a purpose.
Yeah, right. Just for fun.
It feels good. Just fun. God, that word fun, that's missing.
Yeah.
That can be missing as well. So we talk about all that stuff because we need that in order to be engaged in sex or allow ourselves to move into being sexual and expressing ourselves and revealing ourselves. So it's so multifaceted. It's never just about sex.
Right. And it's certainly not just about show up and have sex,
No.
like that's not the goal. In fact, I mean, something I say to my clients, it's like, my goal for you is not to have more sex. It's to help you want more, however that would look for you,
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
So you're sort of alluding to the costs of not nurturing your libido, right? Like it's not, so on the one hand, you might have a partner who's unhappy, like that would be a cost, but you're also sort of talking about some of the things people might, there are losses and costs to this to not pay attention to it and decide to let it go, right?
Yeah, most definitely. And the women that I see, because I only work with women, when they sit in that first session with me and, want to cry and on the cusp, but maybe not allowing themselves to express themselves in that way, it's almost as if that the easiest way I can put it is they've started for maybe the last year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, to treat themselves as though they're men, to be stoic, to not express, to maybe they've been in a very male-dominated industry in their work and they've just had to shut some of that shit down. They cannot be emotional. They cannot be connected to their menstrual cycle. That's just an inconvenience. Like, move on, show up, push, work hard. Like, yeah. So I've seen and worked with a lot of women who, for lack of a better term, have been really in their masculine nature, their masculine energy, and a lot of this, and then wondering why, but how come I can't get into sex? And it's like, well, we can still be in that mode in sex. There's nothing wrong with that. We also need a bit of balance with surrender, softening. That's what our anatomy, although it's very, very strong and can push a whole baby out. We are actually made to be soft, and we need to open up to our partners, and no matter what their gender is, and reveal ourselves. So it's about where are the mirrors in daily life for sex, like in what ways can you move into more softening than hard gym workouts and strict regimens and lots of rules and goals and all of that. There's nothing wrong with any of that, but going back to your original question, that can be the cost, is not really feeling feminine, but wanting to feel it, but seeing other women and going, wow, she's soft, she's supple, she's in flow, she's able to move her body in a sensual way, and the mirrors hold up and it's like, wow, I haven't been like that either forever or for a really long time, and I'd like to access that again.
Yeah, I mean, part of what I'm hearing in that too is that we might have a cost of, well, first of all, the balance, right? But almost of acceptance of ourselves. And easefulness or peace in our own skin. And I don't even just mean, our physical body, but just in our human form, in our existence. Yeah. And it also seems like there'd be like we said, there's almost no fun or play or lightness. Like, if we aren't
lightness. Yeah.
If we aren't watering this garden, right?
That's it.
It's getting hard. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And a word that a few of my clients used recently, I was like, wow, what a word. They used the word brittle. They said, I feel brittle.
Wow.
And that word was just like, whoa, like the image and the feeling that conjures is just it's so dry, and it doesn't it doesn't feel juicy. Like, that's a word, it's the opposite of juicy, basically.
Yeah. It's Jessa here, just taking a quick break. Thanks for listening. Are you interested in being a guest on the show? I'm always looking for people with expertise to share that could enrich other people's sex lives. And I'm also interested in hearing from people who have transformed their own intimate relationship and would want to share their story with my listeners. So if you've got something to contribute to the discussion and want to see about being featured on an upcoming episode, please visit our website, bettersexpodcast.com, and check out the Be a Guest details. You'll find everything you need there.
So it's about, I love what you just said. It is about the balance, and it's about the allowing and acknowledging that we're multifaceted, that we're not just this one mode, this one way of being, this workaholic or just a mum or any minimum. Like, you are multifaceted. No matter who you are
Right.
multifaceted. You have different depths. You aren't just one thing or a brand or some of the things that's really easy to get caught up in our modern day lives. So it's about allowing to see different sides of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
being okay with that.
Yeah, and I mean, imagining listeners are, sort of imagining some of my clients, right, who maybe feel defensive or feel like, oh, wait, is something wrong with me now? This is bad. When people struggle with interest in sex, when they're struggling with this side of themselves, and they think it's just gone, it's something that's happened to them. I mean, I hope our conversation becomes an invitation to them, right? Like I can still drink from the pond, and that this is something available, not a criticism.
Yeah. It's about, ultimately, as humans, we want to expand, we want to evolve, we want to, even if we're petrified of change, I think we all just want to, even if we're fearful, we want to know that something is changing, that we're growing in some way, shape or form. Maybe not every minute of the day, but just looking back and going, we all know that scenario of people have looked back and gone, I literally just did the same thing every day for the last 40 years.
Yeah.
Or I stayed in that job because I was too scared to try something else. Like, I think the good thing about this digital age is we're learning from those, maybe I won't call it a mistake, but some of the ways that people lived their lives where they didn't allow for that expansion. So, I don't know, living in one mode has its limitations, and I think we're made for more. I think we all want more.
So how do people start to really develop, access, feed, nurture, whatever, their libido? Like, if somebody's recognizing some of this and realizing I've neglected this for a while, like what are, I don't know if you've got steps or at least, starting points for suggestions for people.
Yeah. The first thing I'm definitely going to recommend is that you move your body in some way that isn't structured. So what I mean by that, and this, I know that this can be really challenging, but I've had clients say to me, I just realized I get in the car, I sit on the train, I sit at my desk, I get on the train, I sit in my car, I sit on the couch. So I had one of my clients say that to me one time, and it was just like, we talked about how much all of that, and this isn't about health, by the way. I'm not telling people to be healthy or anything like that. We just noticed that her body was stuck. It was just really stuck, and the comfortable started to get uncomfortable. So the reason why I say move your body in an unstructured way, and I'm basically alluding to dance.
Okay, I was going to say, that's not yoga, right? Because yoga is still structured.
Yoga is still structured. Pilates is very structured.
Right.
I reference dance a lot because something I learned from the book Burnout by Emily and Amelia Nagoski is that when we move our bodies, we are actually letting our bodies know that they're safe. So all too often we are going through, and there's some other work that I've accessed that really supports that as well. We're often trying to just tell ourselves that we're safe or that we're sexual or that we're erotic, like using our minds. That is a piece of the puzzle. The interesting thing is our body's not going to believe that until we actually do the thing. But I don't suggest that thing being sex straight up, because it's too much too soon.
Yeah.
So really stomping your feet on the earth, moving your hips. Some people struggle to move their hips and rock them back and forth. Rocking your hips back and forth is a classic thing that we instinctively do in sex, just to get the blood flowing, to get more awareness down to that part of our body, to enhance or amplify sensation. So doing those movements that feel sensual, sexual, or erotic to you by day, fully clothed with some music, is a wonderful way of starting to give your body a message, hey, it's safe to do this, but without feeling like you're really, really putting yourself in a very vulnerable position.
Right.
That would definitely be my first tip. We can't just not move our bodies and then be plonked into the bedroom and go, yeah, hips move and body gyrate and, what are the other terms from erotic novels?
Right.
I can't remember. Undulate.
Yes.
Our bodies just won't do it all of a sudden if it's totally unfamiliar. We've got to make that familiar, and then we get into the bedroom and it's like, oh, okay, I'm more comfortable with circling my hips and caressing and all of that because I've done it by day. So we're often waiting for a feeling and then hoping our body does it, but the really backwards thing is we need to do it through our body and then we'll get the feeling. We want to feel free. Move your body in a way that feels free to you. Don't wait for a feeling of freedom and then go, oh, now my body's just going to respond and act on this. So that reverse engineering is really effective.
Yeah. All right. And then you were talking too about paying attention to small. Well, I think we're talking about is mindfulness to some degree, small pleasures, right? Being in the moment in our sensual selves, whatever that is, that we're brushing a child's hair or slicing onions, right?
Yeah, that's it. Well, that's it. That's it. The small stuff that asks for our presence. So we can check out of anything if we want to. We can be there in body but not in spirit and just doing things on autopilot. But what a difference it makes when we stop and we actually witness what we're doing and we pay attention to it and we take some breaths while we do it instead of holding our breath, which is what so many of us are doing, shallow breathing on autopilot. It's just the small stuff that creates this sense of expansion rather than I'm just a cog, in a machine working on autopilot. What's the point of all this? The point is the little things can be really pleasurable and really enjoyable, and you don't have to go out and traveling the world is amazing and big luxuries are wonderful, but you don't have to. Just starting small with little things that are available to you is a really gentle way of starting to get used to some of that. Without it being big bold gestures.
Based on what you said before, if we're doing too many things that cost us, there also has to be a new balance sheet, right? You may have to reallocate tasks or give some things up and make room for basically self-care, right?
Yep.
Self-exploration and pleasure. Basically, how do people pursue desire and wanting and pleasure in their life in whatever form, right? That would nurture libido.
Yep. Yeah, most definitely. Whatever that looks like to you, lots of people put lots of suggestions out there, but they might not resonate with you, and that's okay. Finding ways of coming down, feeling joy, feeling pleasure is so personal, and it needs to be your own. And just to prepare you, there's going to be some trial and error. It's not going to be, oh, wow, I went to this workshop and now I found my hobby. It's going to be, you've got to be okay with the curiosity and to just go, I gave this a try and it wasn't really me. It didn't really work. That's cool. Move on. Don't let it block you from trying the next thing that you're curious about or interested in. It's that's just life, a bit of trial and error. Some things work and it's okay, now you know. Now you know that wasn't really something that allowed you to drop into that zone or felt like you could. I don't know if listeners know about the flow state. Flow is when our nervous system is in a state where we lose track of time and we're just in pure enjoyment and we're not doing something for an outcome. It's a beautiful state and it's often replicated in good quality sex, basically. It's just you're not thinking, has it been 3 minutes? Has it been 5 minutes? When is this over? It's just your two branches of your nervous system are just working in sync so that you're not dead asleep, but you're not up in stress and you're in that flow state. So replicating that by day with activities of pleasure is just what we're going for. Writing, artistic pursuits, doing a puzzle, maybe doing odd jobs around the home. Just what will get you into that state. Gardening, all different. and do it.
It seems to me that this would take on, like I'm imagining that lots of these people, women, consciously or not, have come to believe they don't deserve this somehow, or they're not entitled to it, or or they've just got too many different responsibilities to think about themselves. What are the kinds of arguments do you get from clients, or obstacles that they put up that have to be overcome, right? They're objections. That's the word I want.
Yeah, good one. The time one is definitely a factor. Don't have time. And I've often, I've been known to say to clients, I said to a client last week, okay, we had a few minutes to wrap up, and I said, I guarantee you right now it's not the time thing. I know a lot about her life and lifestyle. I said, what's the fear? What is the fear? And we got to the heart of it. It was fear, I'm going to fail at this. I'm scared I'm going to fail at it. I'm scared I'm going to fail self-pleasure. I'm scared I'm going to fail trying this thing with no predictable outcome. I work with high achievers and perfectionists, essentially. Like that's the common thread with my clients, and that's who I really enjoy working with. And the fear of failure is the real reason. Like, what if this doesn't work? What if this doesn't work? What if it does? What if it feels sometimes in our need to be grown-ups and adults, we've lost that curiosity and we've lost that sense of possibility. Like, kids don't play for an outcome, they play because it just feels good. And we have so much to learn from them, because there is a point where we did do that and we lost touch with it, and it might have happened I know for some people it happens very young, other people it happens a bit later on, but just having that sense of purposeless, they're scared because they want to know that they did it well, and they want to know that there's going to be this outcome so they can get this feeling. But what I often share with them is, do you notice how you never really get that feeling? Like, there's always just something else after it that you hope is going to give you that feeling, and the next thing and the next thing, and we go higher and higher and higher, and the bar is so far away from us. So I would say the most common objection I get is time, but it is so rare unless you are in a very unique situation. It's probably and I acknowledge that some people are in very solo parents working multiple jobs. I know there's a lot of power and privilege in some of the stuff that I talk about, but for most people, there are opportunities, and we do have to say no to some things. And one of my clients said recently, I've been saying no to things and I've been feeling so good. She was just a yes on autopilot, yes to everything. And she was just like, wow, the difference it makes. And then the occasions where I would just say yes because I thought I should, and instead I took a pause and said no, and how that's allowing her to expand. So we have more choices than we think, and some people might not be completely agreeable to those choices, or they'll be upset by your choices. But it's your life, and it's not selfish. You are worthy. Like what I heard you saying before, like, you're not entitled. You are so entitled to this. You are so entitled to feeling at peace within your own life and satisfied within your own life, and not burnt out and living in stress, and just making sure everyone else is happy. Like, don't be a shell of yourself. You're so much more than that.
Where does permission come into this?
Permission comes through. Permission weaves through all of it. So a couple of years ago, I wrote the word permission on a page, not knowing what I was going to do with it. It just sat there in one of my notebooks, and I wrote down the word and went, I'll come back to that later. I have no idea why I wrote that down. And one day I was sitting at a cafe and I was flipping through my notebook, because I love pen and paper. And I was just like, oh, there's my book title, and ended up just sat there one day and said to myself, oh, if I could, this is 2 years ago now, I just thought, if I could give women permission to be anything in their life, in sex, what would I say to them? And that's the book that came out. And the overarching message is, when we give ourselves permission to show up in life and sex in a way that works for us, oh my gosh, that just changes so many things. When we're not looking at what other people are doing, or getting caught up in the shoulds or the have-tos or the musts, like must be this, should be this, all of that.
Yeah, no performing, right? Just being.
Not performing. Not performing. Looking inward, what feels good for us, full permission to to be okay with the fact that you're kind of serious, or that, you know, you need to take your time to get into sex, that you might have a trauma history as well. Like just acknowledging how you're made up and allowing that to be compatible with the bedroom, rather than going, this is the way I am, I'm going to put all of it to the side and just try and be this thing that doesn't really feel like me. It's never going to get us to the presence. What every woman who comes to me wants is presence. They want they want to be interested, of course. They want to be interested and they want this wanting, but like they are just so checked out in sex and they're not engaged, and they would like to be. So, and I think that starts with, I think a lot of that starts with being really accepting of who we are and acknowledging what needs to be subtracted from our lives, and maybe a few things that need to be added. And I want to emphasize the subtraction part. I don't think we need to be more or do more. It's the subtraction.
Yeah. Great. So would you say a word about the book and about where people could find you? Because I'm actually going to be curious and get in touch.
So Permission is available worldwide through all of the online book merchants. It's available as an ebook, and it's print on demand, so it's always there. Whenever you order it, you get a freshly printed copy.
Hot off the presses.
Cool. How cool is technology? So whatever your preferred book retailer, it should be there. And my name is Lauren White, and I've got a website, laurenwhite.com.au. I'm based in Brisbane, Australia, but I work with women all over, and you can connect with me on social media as well. My handle is Lauren White AU.
Great. We'll put some of those links and handles and stuff in the show notes too. Thanks, so Jessa. People can get in touch. Thank you so much for taking the time to have the conversation with me.
Thank you. I really appreciate you holding this space and you sharing your insights as well to just keep everything flowing. Flow state.
Exactly.
Thanks, Jess. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to Better Sex. Please visit our website, bettersexpodcast.com, for show notes and additional episodes.
And that's a wrap for today. I really hope you enjoyed the episode. If you are enjoying the podcast, if some of this material resonates with you and you would like to make a difference and make sure that this keeps coming out in the world once a week, ongoing, there are a couple things you could do to show your appreciation. The first would be to go to iTunes and rate and review the show. That really helps us be found by new listeners when you review the show on iTunes. You can find a link at bettersexpodcast.com/iTunes. The other thing I want to invite you to consider is becoming a Patreon. For a small monthly pledge, you get some benefits. So for $2 a month, you get advance access to every single episode. For $5 a month, you get a chapter of my upcoming new book. And for $10 a month, I host quarterly get-to-know-you and question and answer chats over the web, and you get invited to that. I would love to have your membership in that, become part of the Better Sex family. You can find a link at bettersexpodcast.com/Patreon, which is Patreon. Again, thanks for listening. I'm glad you're here. Feel free to comment, ask questions, get in touch. I'd love to hear from listeners. Thanks.